but they're going to raise the monthly prices everywhere else.
They'll find a way to make some money.
Speaking of that lack of broadband, Appalachia, out in the boonies, out in the sticks. I've been out there. I've seen some of the poorest places. I've been to 25 different states in this country. I've been to some of the most poorest rural areas.
And people forget we do have those here. Like, it's not always an urban area. Sometimes it's a very rural area.
The state of Pennsylvania alone.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Oh, yeah.
Our school district is a city compared to, the school district alone is a city compared to what's going on in some of these rural areas. Here's my question. I've traveled around. I pulled over to road stops, rest stops, mom and pop places, Piggly Wigglies, all types of places in those areas.
Hey, don't sleep on the Piggly
Listen to me closely. I've gotten drinks, I've gotten soft drinks, all types of stuff. I've never seen any plexiglass.
Oh, that.
Okay.
I've been to bars. I've been to bars in this city. I've gotten a drink.
I don't care.
Shots of this and that. I've never seen any plexiglass.
Let me break this down.
So
no.
I feel so outsiderish right now.
Okay, well, I'm going to break this down.
You go ahead.
I was in council when this went down.
I feel very outsiderish right now.
Before you go, and the reason I have Ernest and Nicki is because I know they can go. I'm going to throw this out there at you. I
don't even want to comment.
Don't comment. I got you.
Listen to me. I worked for the very first stop and go in this town. I was the manager of the very first one. So with that in mind,
when did they start doing
all
that?
right, so let's be clear. Okay, so this is the thing about this whole plexiglass situation. I mean, I think
the issue's not plexiglass.
No,
I'm sorry.
Are you gonna let me talk?
I know, and that's it. Like, call it what it is.
Right.
Like, don't call it like the plexiglass stop and go.
No,
call it what it is. We want to clear our corners.
No, but that's not the. Okay, so here it goes. The thing about the plexiglass is that it's dumb. It's a dumb decision. It's a dumb bill. And I think what it really boils down to is like that it's a contradiction in both of these spaces. One is that one half of them are saying, with Cindy Bass, they're saying, look, stop and goes create nuisance, right? Public nuisances outside, people doing lewd behavior, acting out, drinking, right? So let's break let's really take a moment.
Focus on that?
No. Just listen. Outside of these stop and goes, there's all this loitering, right? People go inside, they're drinking and creating this bad behavior, right? So we can all agree that's what she said. That's what they're all saying. That's why they want to get rid of these stop and goes. Now, let's go inside the actual stop and go. They say the plexiglass is there. The business owners are doing it. They say, that you have to serve people with dignity. You have to, their safety is not at risk. But wait a minute. If all of these lewd people that are drinking, having misconduct, doing crime, are going inside these stop and goes, you think that somehow the behavior stops the moment they walk inside the stop and go? So then if the case for the plexiglass is that we should take it down, because you got to treat people with dignity and serve them, what are you actually doing to address the safety concerns of the people working behind the plexiglass? So to me, it doesn't really add up all the way with it. So to me, it's not, which brings me down to the main point. It's not about the plexiglass. It's not about the stop and goes. They don't want either or, but my argument about the whole taking the stop and goes out altogether is that what are you going to do to put in replace of that? And no one wants to actually talk about what they're going to put in replacement of these spaces.
What?
So if it's like, to me, this is the issue with city council. Everybody wants to take things, but no one wants to put things there. So you want to charge up soda, right? You want to raise the price of soda. You want to take stop and goes out, right? But are you putting something better in that community? Are you actually going to provide healthier options for people in those food deserts that you're raising the soda taxes on? Like, what are you doing to add an alternative? Everybody wants to take things, everybody wants to raise things, but nobody wants to actually provide new solutions and new places, and then they want to then judge the environment. How do people get, let's break this down, because she says treat people with dignity. They're humans, right? Most of those people that's going to those places and doing that, they have a lot of them have actual mental diseases. They're going through poverty. A lot of these people are poor. A lot of these people are having mental
really painting
issues.
Patrons of stop and goes with a broad brush right now.
No, but the reality is this, though. These areas that you're talking about, like, this is the point. If you're going to say that the area is full of crime because of stop and goes, then you can't then judge the people that put plexiglass to protect themselves because of stop and go.
Let me take it here. Hold on.
Which one is
David
it?
Simmons is joining. And thank you, David.
Which
Simmons.
one is it?
We got a little bit of time. Hold on. This is the issue, and we had Cindy Bass twice to explain it, to flesh it out. As I understand it, the very first stop and go started out as the Nazarite Deli. It was a restaurant. They started out as restaurants. Now hold on there. I watched every week. I was the manager. I watched every week. Once a month, there was a meeting of these Koreans, Businessmen's Association, 12 of them at a table, and each one of them would then leave the table, and with at least $1,500 a piece from 12 different people is a pretty little piece of change. That is how they continue to pay for their business. And then, as time progressed, the restaurant part began to diminish, and it was just liquor. And that is what she's talking about. It started out as a restaurant. You guys had liquor, soda, you had food, you had men's and ladies' rooms. Now you just have liquor and all the paraphernalia that drug users like, surrounded with candies that kids like. It's just liquor, cigarillos, that's it. You might get some cup of noodles, but you won't get a meal. You won't be able to sit down.
It's like food desert.
They're
food.
designated as restaurants, but they're not restaurants. They're just selling liquor.
But
they're liquor stores, and that's the argument.
agree, yeah.
Okay, so in my neighborhood, we have several stop and goes, and this is at 24th and Ridge. And one of the problems that I have with the stop and goes is not just because they sell beer, but you have a lot of stop and goes that actually sell alcohol. They actually have bottles of vodka, bottles of gin. So now you're a liquor store. Right. And we actually stopped one of the stop and goes that was formerly a bar that tried to slide in on the fact that they were serving food. We actually stopped that in our neighborhood from being an additional stop and go when there was already one on the following corner. Right. There were going to be 3 to 4 stop and goes on the corner of Cecil B. Moore and Ridge, and we fought in the neighborhood, and now there's not an additional stop and go.
I was on many a corner after the fact, when this thing began to be a really big nuisance and the drug game began to be a really big nuisance and we were marching and everything. The problem with the stop and goes is that, I'm sorry, the surrounding community liked it.
They do.
So you're fighting.
Supply and demand.
So you're fighting for people who may be inviting this.
But the problem is you're not changing. But you're not changing behavior because you're not changing institutional space. And I think that's the issue. That's the issue I have with it, is that it's like you can't. The argument about stop and goes is that you're not trying to end stop and goes. You're trying to take things out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fun Saturday morning, as I knew it would be. Promise me something, you three. You will come back.
Yeah, we'll come back.
David, I know you'll be back.
No,
absolutely.
I think it was here last time I was here.
Thanks, David Simmons, everybody. He provided breakfast. Ladies, thank you, Amina. Thank you, Nikia Campbell. Thank you, YG. Tactic, always thank you. Paul Edward Smith, I am so sorry you didn't make it. George, we didn't have time. Everybody on social media, we're not going anywhere. We're going to flesh out and continue this conversation. But everybody listening to the sound of my voice right here, thank you. 143, be good. If you can't be good, be better. And remember, there is always a blessing on the other side of you. We're still live on Facebook Live, everybody.
Yes,
oh my God, I love you.
I told you you would. I told you you would.
I'm glad. Awesome.
All right, everyone right now from the sound of my voice, let us congratulate, first of all, Nicki Mayo, Pen Pencil Award winner right here.
Yes.
Good job.
What award?
Yeah.
In the Pencil Club.
But my whole team, though, we're talking like 5 out of those 15 went to the Philadelphia Tribune.
Okay.
So rock on.
Yeah.
All right.
Also,
Also,
Jones got it as well, right? Yes.
who's not here? Michael Cord, he won for best commentary. Michael.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Denise Clay,
Yeah.
and I was so
Best
happy.
community reporter.
to hear- what was it? She won now.
She won for best community
Best
reporter.
community reporter, Denise
Yes.
Clay. Her other half, Chris Murray, also won the Pen and Pencil for Sports. Congratulations, Chris Murray. Vincent Thompson, political reporting. Good job, Vincent. Ayana Jones.
Business reporter.
Ryan Persinger.
Who's that?
Ryan Persinger.
Yes, Ryan
for
Persinger.
Breaking news.
I think we got everything.
And did we leave anybody out?
No.
Boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah, Sheila.
Sheila
Simmons.
Simmons,
Oh
my God.
editor.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Editor.
How can I
Yes.
forget you, Sheila?
Really?
But I want to say to this young man, all right, who was on the commission, on the panel.
Yeah, I was the one who
This bad
put the
movie.
words together.
Thank you.
I'm on the board of Pen Pencil Club.
Good job.
So I was happy we
It's all about
Good
diversified
job.
it.
Good job.
access and advocacy is
Yes.
very important.
Yes.
What was it this year? Was it odd to see so many black folks win?
No.
That wasn't odd, right?
No, it's not.
I was
Because
rooting
I don't
for
know why
them.
we act like it's just a surprise. I mean, like, we see award shows where white people win all the time, and I don't understand why when we win, it's just weird. Like, if
But I mean, the
we do great
history of
work-
it, we have not won a lot.
No,
That's
but
what I'm
that's
saying.
not because of our inability or our work ethic. We've always been great, but it's just about our community being engaged and participating. One of the things that annoy me about spaces in 2017, we need to stop saying, "Oh, I'm not going there because it's this." Well, then if you don't like what it looks like, then you need to change it. Get a membership, be involved. But unless they're telling you that you can't be a part of something, then you just can't. So someone's got to step up. So, I stepped up. 2 years I was nominated prior. I'd never worked for any of the major black publication cities. I've always worked for like Metro. I'm at Philadelphia Magazine now. I've always been at the main publication. So I learned the business side of like how they operate. They are a very tight-knit circle. They all support each other. They run like teams. For any awards come, they all nominate each other as a group because they know that there's strength in numbers. And they join memberships and they encourage people too. So I got an opportunity to be encouraged because one of my fellow co-workers was on the board, said, hey, do you want to be on the board? I said, wow, you're asking me to join? I was like, yeah. So I ran, won, I'm the treasurer. And
soon to be president.
Huh?
Probably.
I got time. Exactly. So one of the things they did was they had awards this year. They said, every year we do these awards. I said, well, as somebody who's been a part of it, there's some things we need to change. What are some of the things that we do normally? They said, well, normally we'll send out, the information for people to nominate for each company. And what I was knowing is that they would send it to everybody. They would send it to all the black publications. But the people in the companies that would get it are people that some people are excited about the awards. So some people are like super excited, like, oh, I gotta be there. Oh, I gotta see it. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. They're excited or whatever like that. And so they'll be excited about going.
You have to show up.
You have to show up.
You have to show up.
And showing up means that you gotta be there. So this year I said, instead of for me waiting for all these other people to wait to these companies to nominate, I stepped up and said, there are some people I would like to nominate or consider. And so I went out my way to find people to nominate. Other people on our board nominated some others of color and a part of it. And so we start realizing, okay, we put a lot of these people on, then make sure that everybody knows they're nominated. Because it's all online vote. It's all democratic. Like, they don't pick people. You have to vote. But the only way you know is you got to create that. So once we saw that list of all these people, there were 15 categories. We had about 25 black people nominated this year from all types of different publications and places. So when that list came out, people were so excited they knew people to vote for. Because if you don't give people a reason to vote, they're like, okay, I see this list. I don't know hardly anybody here. I'm not going to vote. If you know people it makes it even more exciting because now people voted. So, the moment they saw the Tribune people nominate a lot of their friends, everybody then wanted to show up.
Thank you, everyone that voted for us. Thank you.
One of our listeners, one of our social media cyber watchers, has a question for Ernest. I don't know if he can publicly answer that question.
I was going to message you last night. I Ubered, and we took an instant.
Did anybody Uber last night or Lyft? Because my God, the rates were incredible last night. It was bananas. Can you talk about it?
I mean, I could, but it's like irrelevant. But they can DM me.
All right, Iris, we saw your question.
Yes, DM me.
DM her. He'll answer your question.
We're friends on Facebook. DM me.
DM. So pen and pencil. I really was happy to see Denise win.
Yeah.
I really was.
But it's about access and advocacy. So you had an advocate and you had people having access finally to have a chance to win.
Who's the girl on Insecure?
Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody black.
She said something, I want to say 3 months ago. I was watching it, and I shared it here, and I'll say it again. She said, what we need to be doing is helping each other laterally.
Yes.
Not always going after the people that are already up there and bringing them down. No, let's all go after folks that are all here, and we'll all go together. That's why I call her David. That's why I call her you. That's why I call you. Now he's going to go without us. You two may go without us. You don't need me. But what I try to do is I try to bring these voices together, because somebody did that for me. And if you don't do it, again, nobody will know who you are. And I mean, I wanted them to hear the three of you together because I hear you all the time.
What an issue.
And I enjoy what I'm doing.
What an issue too, I realized too, is that I'm only 26. I'm on that board. And one of the things that was annoying to me is that there's always this ageism in like who can help and who can provide. But the reality is that some of these people are just not there. There's spaces that I'm in, I'm grateful to be a part of, that I can be able to help somebody else. And that's nothing to do about age, that's to do with access. And there's people that was telling me like, I'm like, hey, I actually can help make this award different. Award people who's been in the business longer than me,
that
never been there.
That, I do find myself fighting that a lot. And it's not just an ageism thing, it's just the fact that the way we've always done it. Like literally when I took the job at the Tribune, I said, look, I will not take this job if I hear the line, the way we've always done it, because I'm here to invoke change. So if you stick with what has always worked, what's the definition of insanity? Thank you. So doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different response is not going to happen.
Well, what's difficult for folks is that this digital divide, this digital everything, really is confusing a lot of folks. And we don't understand, for instance, I'm looking at three young women. These two I don't even know, do you own a TV? You don't watch television the way we watch TV.
No.
You program everything.
You watch it when you want to watch it.
Right. We used to wait for something to come on. You had to wait for
Right.
reruns, and you had to wait for this season and that
But,
season. But
you
you can
know,
program everything. There's still some
changes
people,
happen.
and there are people that aren't ready for change.
No.
And trust me when I tell you both this, there will come a time in your lives it will happen to you.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Lord,
that's
you
the
about to
reality, though.
bang
But
us
this,
down.
why is that? Hold on, but why is that any of that a problem?
It's
I
not
think
a
that's the-
problem. It's being able to understand it and recognize it.
No, but I think
And
But
then
you
like,
know
apply
what?
it
It
properly.
comes down to how, like the teacher had on here, it comes down to how you're explaining it to people. Because some people
Right.
are very nasty and arrogant about, like, well, if you don't figure it out, then you might as well die. You know, like, you don't want to do that to
No.
people. I've been always trying to be, like, the ambassador for digital.
Yeah.
And I realized that I'm dealing with folks from, like, especially when I was at AP, I had folks that were, like, a good 3 decades older than me. You know, boom, 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 boom. I have things to teach them. They have things to teach me.
Right.
So as long as we're all open, then we can all kind of learn a little
I
bit.
mean,
here
yeah,
and
learn-
not
When
be-
you were up in Appalachia and you've been in some of
Yeah.
those rural areas, you know what that mindset is, those Trump supporter mindset is.
Yeah,
You
that was
left us
fun.
behind. And then we have nothing but contempt for them because we said, well, you're not sophisticated, you're not educated, you're poorly this, you're deplorable, blah, blah, blah. And we do. I felt differently when I went back and thought about it and got to really interact with those folks again. I said, you know what, I really do understand where they're coming from.
You have to, it's kind of like, okay, I have a lot of Southern family. I'm really big on that. And you have to be very open-minded and not try to invoke how you feel or your perception of the world on them. You
It's
need
the
to be-
city mouse, country mouse thing.
Yeah,
It
it's
really
like you
is.
need to be understanding how they're seeing stuff. So when it comes to the digital stuff, and keep in mind, I am working at a legacy black press organization. Been around since 1884.
The
Okay?
oldest one, yeah.
So that's old. At the same token, I have such a passion for black images and making sure that we have correct representation, accurate, sometimes good, not bad, but you get the idea. That I have to be patient with how I push change. So yeah, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have all this fancy stuff, social media wise, but I have to stay true to the mission, which is the voice of the African American community. Can't change that part up.
Are you finding that people are finding you digitally more so?
They,
Are they finding you?
well, that's just it. Like the people who are already going to pick the paper up on those 3-4 days a week that we publish, they're not going anywhere. They're going to do that. That's what they're comfortable with and be happy with that. But I am really happy about the generational divide that I'm able to offer here, because otherwise, my age and under, we're not picking papers up. Sorry, we're not.
Picking up devices.
And while I may have been raised on the Afro in Baltimore, and I did AXO and NAACP, both of these organizations, all black press and black civil rights organizations, are fighting to get the next generation. Because if they don't change, if they don't morph and make themselves relevant, I know everyone hates hearing that, then you're going to lose an entire generation and you will die out with whoever your staunch supporters are right now.
And that's good. I mean, for me, Philadelphia Magazine is the oldest regional magazine. I mean, this area.
Just drop that gem there.
We just saying, they're old. But the difference with them is that, the challenges every time is what is Philadelphia. And I think that's really what
Philadelphia's changing a
has
lot.
helped. Is like trying to figure out, it's not what is Philadelphia. Like when you pick up that magazine, that, the goal is to, people can look at it and say, I know this person, or I know this thing, or that there's a way of covering all these different great things that's happening in Philadelphia, the most challenging things that impact all Philadelphians politically, economically, or socially in some kind of way, and in a way that's still stylish. Very.
How long have you been?
We don't own the rights to any of this music.
So do you know Adrian?
Huh?
The one Adrian that left?
I love Bruno, sorry.
She wrote the,
That little Puerto Rican Jewish Filipino boy is killing the game.
Maybe it's Inquirer.
Back on
To
top.
interrupt you too. Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
We had a conversation about Alabama.
Yeah.
Black women to America.
Black women in America.
You're welcome.
Woke up Alabama, saved Alabama from itself Tuesday night from
Black
Judge
women to
Ward
the rescue
Moore.
again.
And we can talk about that and express. Oh, but here's the thing that came out of that I really appreciate. I was hearing from black women. All right, we saved y'all asses.
Now what?
We tired of saving y'all asses. We've been saving y'all asses for a long time. It's time to start directing monies to our communities, to our consultants,
You
to
see,
our
Charles
people.
Barkley is actually giving some money to black women businesses. I was like, wow.
So-
Charles Barkley trying to do a whole revamp on his look and everything. I see you.
and that's fine. He should. I mean, I think
needs
the
to,
reality is
Lord.
I think now it's
He was raised by strong women.
that's fine.
Then what
That don't mean anything. A lot of these men are raised
Like,
by
what
strong
happened?
women. Like I don't know why that even matters.
I
There was
just
still-
have to give him credit.
Black,
was still
black women in the
something.
vote. Black women in the vote.
No, I
Black
mean,
women.
well, my family lives in Alabama, in Huntsville, and I mean, one of the things that we talked about is that it's time for people just to stop talking it. So it's like, to a lot of those people that were on the thing talking about how much they love black women, what are you doing to support them? And I mean, not to support them by just going on TV saying this stuff and hashtagging it, but where are you putting your money? Are you opening doors? Are you creating institutional space with the research that you have? Because that's one of the things that annoy me, is a lot of these individuals, politicians, elected officials, say all the time, we support black people, we support black businesses, we do this. But when you start asking them, who is your caterer at your events? Yeah. Who are you donating money to? Who are you promoting? You know, who are you referring? It's not the same as the same people to which they're saying they support. And I see that a lot, especially in Philadelphia. Like, you know, for me, like, being in media, I support a lot of other black journalists, and I find ways to do it. Like, I mean, I'm hella competitive, so I'm gonna always like root for the publication I'm working for at the time. But across the board, I do recognize that I'm a part of a larger community, and so if there's ways I can advocate for other black journalists and support them in what ways I can, that's important.
But I need to jump in there, and about the Alabama and the black woman thing, I also need to say that while it's important for those institutions, the people like the Jones, to support the African American community, it's also equally important for us to support our own community. Yeah. It can't be just that we're expecting like the coming of the white man to come and save us. We got to save ourselves.
I want to progress the political conversation, you know, a little bit more to what's applicable like right now. Yeah. And this has been a common theme, because I talk to people who were like doing the whole, I'm not voting for Hillary. You know, I'm going to bring it back to that. I'm not voting for Hillary because, and they would say because of what she did back in the 90s, plus you know, this whole the whole white savior
predators
thing, for the most part, you know, the
super
predators. But the idea of giving your vote away on the regular, and a lot of millennials, a lot of like, you know, progressives have said, like, look, I'm no longer giving my vote away. You need to like show me a reason to give my vote to you. Now, I'm not saying not voting is ever the best idea, like ever. I'm saying don't do that. But in Alabama, we have 2 podcasts on our website right now with our sister paper down in the Birmingham Times. And one of the key things is that there was a generational divide, but it wasn't this time. This time they did not feel the luxury of, I'm not going to vote because I don't think that Doug Jones is going to do any better than Roy Moore. So we need to get out of that mindset of, I like the fact of holding people accountable. I don't like the automatic Democrats are going to give votes, or black people are going to give votes to Democrats. I do not like that idea. I specialize in politics, pop culture, and all things trending. That's always what I've done. And to see that trend, that is where we get into that hole of the black vote being taken for granted. So yes, we know that black women, especially baby boomers and Gen Xer black women, are always going to show up to the polls. They're going to tend to lean to the Democratic Party. We know that's going to happen. But you know what? Their issues need to be priority number one if you know you have a consistent base.
But
do the campaign
can we
stops.
always say that the Democrats take the black people for vote when we have so many black people that still don't vote?
Look,
can we really say that? When it comes
to politics, it comes down to who is voting. Like, you got people who don't vote, so they're not a factor. I'm sorry, they're really not a factor because they're not a factor when it comes to those numbers. This is how they're politically strategizing who they're going to go in court, who are they going, like, really, with churches, with synagogues, with temples, they're going to go and stand in front of and say, I want your vote. They are strategically doing it, and they're not, quote unquote, wasting their time with those who they know don't vote. Hillary messed up where she just didn't, quote unquote, waste her time, which is the bona fide, like, your support base.
Right, because I'm going to tell you something. There was not one lawn sign, sticker, or anything in North Philadelphia. But guess what? Parked at 23rd and Ridge. Black men for Bernie Sanders. Big, massive buses.
It is still
to this point, I remember clearly hearing this more than once from white women. You know how we look at Ben Carson? How we may look at Omorosa? Or how we may look at... what's my man's name?
Yeah, they weren't
Connolly, or who's our guy? Clarence Thomas. They see Hillary the way we see those black men and women. And I didn't peep that. I didn't understand that. They consider her a sellout.
I heard that.
To
for
white
those
women
who
and white
said
people.
that, their disdain for her was as strong as, like you said. But I was like, but you do realize what the opposition will be, right?
Right. They didn't consider it. They didn't. Their mindset was
we only had 2 candidates.
We'll get through it.
Let's talk about the other
their mindset, Nicki, was we'll get through it.
But there's
you and
another
I
elephant
know
in the
better.
room. There's another elephant.
We know better.
There is another elephant in the room. There is a large amount, and I would even venture to say 20% of white men in America that's just not ready for a woman to be president.
That was real too. And we found that out in some of the polling.
But
But
I'm not.
for white women themselves.
Yeah, but
I watched them crying on election
but
night,
who
man.
cares? I mean, I don't care about them, and I don't care about Trump.
Tell me how you really
No, but I'm
feel.
just saying, I don't care about. I'm so over that election because at the end of the day, the reality is this: we just need to have better Democrats. Period.
How
And I
about
think
that?
the problem is that
You're not giving us a good
the
answer.
real election to me, no. The real elections to me are really in the primaries when Democrats are going against other Democrats, where you can weigh and have options between the same incumbent that you're tired of and maybe a challenger that might be having something better.
Yeah.
To me, by the time we finish the primary part and we get to
That's it.
November, it's like, okay, 9 times out of 10 in Philly, whoever that Democrat is going to be is going to most likely win. It's over. We got to stop at its tracks. There was a real fight to get to that Democratic nomination process. And the moment that was already given to Hillary, I knew how the rest of the election was probably going to go because there was a moment where there was that fight. And I was like, okay, at this point, all these people are going to either be disenchanted, not engaged, don't care. It sucks. They're not smart enough to just vote.
They're playing bad politics.
They are playing bad politics.
That's my whole thing is that
But-
they know how it works. So why are you continuing to do what is not working?
But that's the point I'm getting to is that it starts before we even get to the actual real
because
election
I'm
day.
a registered independent. I don't even get to see
No,
primaries.
no.
Okay, so
Oh,
I
you're
don't.
registered
Yes.
independent.
Yeah,
It's part of being a reporter,
I love
so.
a good primary.
But
and
It's like you're ticking people off. You
Yeah.
had Bernie, you had Hillary, and the way that people were treated during the DNC, like all the stories I was hearing, I was like, see, you're going to lose an entire generation of voters acting like this.
yeah,
So,
what you have
so
to
let
do.
me ask
I'm
you
gonna tell
this.
you why you
So
lose,
as
David.
the person that you said, not only the millennial and everything trending, just would you rather have seen Bernie be the candidate against Donald Trump?
I don't
No,
like
I'm a
neither
reporter,
one
right?
of them.
I do.
Then I don't answer those questions.
No.
That's the thing that folks don't think about.
So can we
It's
answer
up
the
to-
question when y'all gonna eat that food so it don't get cold?
we're about to go
Because
eat
I don't
food
do
now.
cold food
That's
and I
right.
don't do bad catering
That's
reviews.
right.
David Sims,
We will
everyone.
not give you
Mr.
a
Ridge
bad
Avenue.
Right.
We'll never
Okay.
do
Brought us
that.
breakfast once again.
I
You two, thank you so much, guys. We're going to cut this short. I've actually got to get my mom and take her to get her hair done. Yeah. And my dad got some things going on.
Oh, believe
but
me,
I
I
want to
get
thank
plenty
these
of
two
social media.
and these three and these three young women over here.
Everybody.
They work hard.
They
Black
really
girl
do.
magic all up in this piece. Thank you.
Paul, I don't know what happened, Paul. I'm sorry you didn't make it, but we will get you together with these two. The conversation was great. Was it good for you guys?
It was awesome.
Make sure, promise me, this won't be the last time.
This will not be the last.
You heard him. Listen to this young woman. Read her. Follow her. What she's doing on the Philadelphia Tribune, please.
Add, like,
Please.
subscribe. Philly Trip, please. Philly Trip, please. Thank you.
I don't have to tell you about Ernest Owens. You know where he is. You know how to find him. If not, Ernest, tell them.
on Facebook and Twitter and Google. Just
He's
Google me.
Mr. Ernest Owens.
Yeah, I'm Instagram everything. I'm on every social media and all verified accounts.
It's Mr.
I'm
Ernest
at
Owens.
Mr. Ernest Owens. MR. That's the first part. ERNESTOWENS. No spaces, no hypers, none of that.
David,
I'm
what
pushing
was,
all things Philly Trip right
I was
now.
with
Yeah,
you.
Philly Trip for
At
her.
Philly
Happy
Trip,
fun.
yes.
Give him the shot, David. Give him the shot, David.
All right.
Yeah.
So Ridge Avenue tree lighting ceremony was amazing.
We
I
have a great story
actually
about that on our page, by the way. Yeah.
on the Inquirer.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Tribune.
I'm sorry.
I put together a video and everything
He
for
made
you.
his food.
Really?
He made his food. He made his food.
It was amazing. Actually, this was the first year after doing it that I actually had an opportunity to have a good time. I really did.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I had fun. No, it wasn't all work because I had some great people and I had a great team.
Okay, well, I'm ready for this food.
Yeah, I want this food. Yeah, I'm
Shut it down.
heartbroken.
Thanks, everybody. We're going to go. You know what? We may even take you
I
with
saw
us.
the article.
Come on, everybody.
It's your interview. It's video from the performances. You
Yes, I did see that, and I actually forward that today.
like, share, subscribe.
I saw Star Wars, by the way. Saw it yesterday. All right, let's go eat.